Hi, this is Sachiko Sensei. I hope you're doing well. Today, I wanted to quickly introduce myself, tell you a little bit about my background. Okay, I'm going to screen share a PowerPoint slide that I prepared. So let's take a look. Welcome to my class. This is Sachiko. And today we're going to talk about me. Who am I? Where am I from? What are my hobbies? Let's find out. Question 1, where is Sachiko from? A, Osaka, B, New York, C, Tokyo. What do you think? Based on the way I speak English, where do you think I am from? But remember, when I speak English in front of students, I try to speak slowly and I don't use any accents that I normally would have. So don't be fooled. Okay, the answer is everywhere. I've lived in all 3 cities, Osaka, Tokyo, and New York. And this is a quick breakdown. Yes, I've moved around a lot because of my father's business. I lived in Osaka from the ages of 2 to 6. And then when I was 6 years old, my father's business took us to Canada, first of all, Vancouver and Toronto. And I was there from the age of 6 and 9. That's where I studied or learned English initially. And then when I was 9, my family moved to New York and I lived there for 4 years. When I was 13, in the middle of 7th grade, my family returned to Japan and I lived in Osaka all through junior high, high school, and college. I went to college for 5 years because for 1 year I studied in the US as well. So that's why I graduated at age 23. After college, I lived in Tokyo for 4 years, worked here. And then after that, I moved to New York and worked there for about 6 years. And then I came back to Tokyo in 2005. I know, it's a lot of moving. I have moved 16 times in total in my life. I never want to move again, honestly. Okay. Question 2, what jobs has she had in the past? A, translator, B, TV director, C, writer. What do you think? Which jobs do you think I had before becoming a teacher? The answer is all of them. Again, I have been a translator since the age of 18, since first year of college. My high school teacher recommended me to another graduate who needed a translator. So I worked at her company part-time, twice a week when I was in college. That was my first job as a translator. And then I've also been translating for Asahi Shimbun, Nikkei Shimbun, lots of different places. B, I was also a TV director at NHK from the ages of 23 to 27. That was my first job out of college because I studied journalism in college. And I also worked at TV Asahi New York branch for a year when I was 28. I was also a writer. I've written about 100 articles for the Asahi Weekly since the age of 27. Sometimes I wrote every month. Sometimes I wrote just once a year, depending on what other jobs I had. And as you can see, I was very overworked. I always had 3 or 4 jobs at the same time. So full-time, I would be working at the Nikkei Shimbun as a translator. I come home and I do freelance translation work for Asahi Shimbun. And I also wrote articles for the Asahi Weekly on the weekends. So in that way, I always had 3 or 4 jobs. So I was very, very overworked. Here are some examples of articles I've written. So this is what the Asahi Weekly looks like on paper. They also have a digital version on asahi.com. When Star Wars Episode 3 came out in theaters in 2005, I was a huge fan. So I told my editors, hey, I'm going to a Star Wars fan convention. Can I write articles about it? So I went to, this is an article that I wrote. As you can see, it says, by Sachiko Nakagome. I went to a fan convention where everybody was dressed up. These are just regular people, just regular fans who dressed up in costumes as Star Wars characters. This was super fun. I went there for like 4 days. I wrote like 4 articles and published pictures as well. So the money I made from the articles and the pictures paid for my trip from New York to Indianapolis and my hotel fees as well. So that was very cool. This is another article I wrote about my hobby of costuming. So after I interviewed people who wear costumes as a hobby, I became interested and I started doing it too. So when I came back to New York a couple of months after Indianapolis, I dressed up as a lady version of Darth Vader. That's me, dressed up as Darth Vader. And I lined up in front of the movie theater for about 3 weeks. And a lot of people were taking pictures of me, including this police officer who kept circling the movie theater again and again. So I went up to talk to him. It was very fun. This was an article I wrote about George Lucas. Unfortunately, I did not have a one-on-one interview with him. He just talked to many journalists on stage, and I was one of thousands of journalists just listening to his responses. But I got to write about him. This is a column that I wrote every month for about 2 years about culture shock that I experienced living in Manhattan. So it says "Totsugeki Manhattan Life" by Sachiko Nakagome. Any kind of culture shock or cultural differences between Japan and the US. So this article was about New Yorkers who were tired of the terrorist threats after 9/11. I lived in New York from 1999 to 2005. So after the 2001 9/11 attacks, there were a lot of security, a lot of police officers everywhere, and local New Yorkers were just getting tired of it. So I wrote about that. Another article of the same series was about how Americans use humor in times of emergencies. Okay. This is an article I wrote more recently in 2016 about how Japan deals with refugees or people who seek asylum in Japan. Now, this is a logo of an organization, a nonprofit organization that I worked for in New York. It's called the New York Asian Women's Center. It assisted domestic violence victims who were Asian. So we offered services in lots of different Asian languages. I volunteered more than 50 hours a month when I started. And so in 2001, in June 2001, I was given an award from New York City as the best volunteer. It was very nice. So that's Mayor Giuliani. He was the mayor of New York at the time. That's the man in the middle is the vice mayor. That's me with the bob haircut. That's my boss. And that was the volunteer coordinator, the one on the very far right, the Korean woman with the short hair. She was the volunteer coordinator at the time. Now, a little bit about my teaching experience. From the ages of 16 to 23, so basically through high school and college, I taught kids from my parents' home. My parents' home is in Osaka. I used one of the rooms, the bedrooms, the tatami mat room, to teach little kids ages 6 to, I think, 18. I had like 24 students at one point. It became very popular in the neighborhood. So that was my first experience with teaching. I loved it. But when I graduated from college, I wanted to do other things like work in the media because I thought, I can teach when I'm older, when I'm retired. So I didn't immediately go into teaching. When I came back to Japan in 2005, I started working at Berlitz because I just wanted to teach English again, and I had the time. When I was in New York, I was so busy. I was so busy with media and nonprofit work. I didn't have time to teach. So when I came back to Japan, I taught at Berlitz for 8 years, and I loved it so much. I wanted to have my own classes. I wanted to make my own teaching materials. So I got a master's degree in education from Temple University, Japan, when I was 42. And then I have been teaching at universities in the Kanto region ever since 2013. And I teach about 300 students every year. That's a lot. Okay. Now, question 3. What are Sachiko's hobbies? Choose 3 out of these 5 choices. A, watching movies. B, reading. C, soccer. D, running. E, drawing. What do you think are my 3 hobbies? I put in a mix of cultural hobbies, sports hobbies, and artistic hobbies. What do you think I like to do? So the answers are A, B, and D. I like watching movies, I like reading, and I like running in my spare time. Question 4, what are Sachiko's favorite movies? A, Harry Potter. B, West Side Story. C, Love Actually. D, Star Wars. E, Aladdin. Which ones are my favorite movies? I think you already know the answer to 1 because I talked about being a fan of Star Wars, right? Okay, so my favorite movies are in this order. I like all of those movies, but in this order. I like Star Wars the most, West Side Story second, Harry Potter, the entire series is third, Love Actually, it's a love comedy from 2002. That's my 4th, and Aladdin is my 5th favorite. I like, do you know there are 2 versions of Aladdin? There was an animated version in the 1990s, and then a live action version with Will Smith, I think in 2019. I like both versions. I like both. They're different. Okay, so if you have any questions for me, please ask me in person. I look forward to meeting all of you. And when I see you, I would like you to tell me about yourself, your hobbies, your past work experience, if you have any, and anything else. Thank you for listening to this video, and I look forward to talking to you soon. Thank you.